Well, we're back with Aristo, and we're starting today at 11:11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Aristo was a little confused because the U.S. goes on daylight time ahead of Europe, so he was thinking it was actually an hour earlier than what it is. Anyway, here we go, Aristo. Take it away.
Thank you, Ron. Good morning on your end, and here it's afternoon. Yes, time is all messed up, and it's not even time, it's the clocks. It's whatever they tell us time is. In fact, everything they tell us is messed up. And some of us are beginning to realize that the problem is that we're listening to what they tell us instead of listening to ourselves. This occurs in diet. All these people, when they listen and they say, okay, this really clicked with me, and I really did this, and then they try to impose it on others. The same thing with people in high places, excuse me, like families and whatever. They have an idea of how things should be, and they, because now you talked about the mandate of heaven. That means heaven is telling you what's right, and that's fine, and it clicks with you. And then you have to tell the people you have to all do it this way. You know, that's tyranny. When a minority tells a majority how to do things and does not let them modify the information and translate it to their own being, and actually, when the minority does not encourage the majority to listen to their own wisdom, then they are on the road to tyranny, whether they are well meaning or not, in my honest opinion. This is the problem. If we sit here and tell other people what to do with a vehemence, a combative vehemence, of you have to do it this way, instead of trusting that, look, man, people may be stupid because they've been conditioned that way, but they're never going to get smart if you keep treating them as if they're stupid. So, if we want to change the world, we need to set the example of how we want the world to be. And then that's even a generalization, in my opinion, because I'm not telling people what to do. A lot of people promote positive thinking based on that argument. They say, well, I want the world to be positive, so we have to all smile. So smile, motherfucker. Smile, 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 smile. No, that too is a form of pressure tyranny. Nobody likes to be pressured. We've all been pressured all our lives. And the only kind of pressure that may be productive is the pressure you put on yourself when you truly desire something, to get off your butt and serve yourself. We keep talking about service to others, and I believe in that. But how much has the establishment guilt-tripped us into serving them in the name of serving others? How much have we been fooled so that our principles have been used against us? So let's go back to basics. That's what I'm saying. Go back to basics. If you want to fix your health, learn to listen to your body. If you want to know the truth, learn to discern. If you want a better system, practice your own ethics, really, in the details. And if you find resistance, you have an opportunity to face the shadow. What I wanted to get into this video is a topic. I mean, you can change this title, but because it's very general and I don't know how much I'm going to be able to align the actual title with what I'm going to say.
I already put a title for based on where you've been going. I put Ending the Tyranny of the Know-It-All.
Yeah. I'm going to see, there's like 50, that's chapter 1. Chapter 2 has a kind of different connotation, because today was a solar eclipse, a new moon, first day of spring, which is a big ass deal because the first day of spring is actually, astrologically speaking, the first day of the year. The year starts on the first day of spring, not so much on the first day of winter. But that's again arbitrary. But the point is that it's a new moon, which means a lunar cycle represents a kind of cycle of the psyche. So our psyche, our collective psyche, and our physical environment are aligned on this day. Plus, there's this, I look at these cycles, our ancestors looked at these cycles. We are affected by our environment. I believe we are affected by the sun, by the radiations of the sun. I believe we are affected by the radiations of the moon. We are electromagnetic beings. These radiations are electromagnetic. And so, as an electromagnetic body moves around in the solar system, you have different effects. And that's how astrology works, basically on observation. Now, it doesn't mean that the form of this knowledge is accurate the way it's being presented. The form of any knowledge in our civilization may not be accurate. It may be so inaccurate that, again, it serves the system. It keeps the system going, and we mistake keeping the system going for keeping us going. That is another fallacy. Pay attention. Often the system tells us if the system breaks down, you're dead. Now, why do we think that? Because our very worldview is not designed to keep us going. It is designed to keep the system going. And the system harvests our energy to keep it going. So it is the one that's going to go down if we step away from it. Now, what is the system? This system that's kept going, of course, if we change our thoughts, if we change our paradigm, we're afraid the system is going to crumble. And so we're afraid we're going to crumble because of this. We don't feel really deep down that we can stand on our own 2 feet. And then again, there's the other side. If you really see, there's no guarantee that if you really step away from the system, you're going to be safe, because the system can aggress against you. It's not just that you need the system to eat and live and all of that. If you step away from the system, it's like a drug dealer. The drug dealer is feeding on your addiction. So if you are strong enough, most people can't break the addiction. But if you are strong enough to break the addiction, then you say, okay, I'm safe. I broke the addiction. I'm going to go live my life. Fuck the drug dealer. But then the drug dealer is going to send his gang hoods against you to kill you, to make an example so nobody else breaks the addiction. So we have a double threat. Our first threat is the addiction to the system. And the second threat is the aggression and the threats of the system against us. The passive threat, that if we break from the system, we're just going to die because we need the system. And the active threat, that if we break from the system, they're going to come after us. So we need to deal with 2 threats, not 1. So it's not enough to just fund a project and go build something new away from the system. How do we deal with these things? Well, in my opinion, excuse me, let me correct this a little bit. This depends on our worldview again. Our worldview determines the solutions we come up with. So if we want to come up with right solutions, we need to really examine our worldview. And again, nobody can actually dictate that. We've been dictated for far too long, and whoever dictates is a dictator. Dictation means whatever the boss tells the secretary. Write it down exactly as I say it. That's the way it is. You know. Whereas advice, suggestions, coaching, encouragement, that's inspiration. This is something different. This basically says, okay, write it down, and you have the right to edit it. There is no copyright on my advice. You have the right to change it around, edit it, and even if you want to twist it and make it a lie out of it, that's your problem. Because you're not going to be a dictator to other people, not because there's some guarantee, but because the advice itself encourages discernment and integrity and strength and empowerment in other people, so they won't let you be a dictator. You see, how do we respond to dictators? Most people respond defensively and aggressively. Is this the way to do it? Some people respond passive aggressively. Basically, they try to put a smile on their face and say, hugs and kisses, Mr. Dictator. I love you, but I disagree with what you're saying. Oh, what happens to your passion then? Don't you feel a little bit of outrage when somebody's trying to dictate terms on you? Don't you want to respond? A lot of people just blow up, throw insults. How do we find balance? We find balance by realizing that we're all interconnected, in my opinion. So here is, in the middle of this video, I'm going to just propose a general title that may not have anything to do with what I'm saying. So the title is basically Vibrations of being and historic challenges. So,
Say it again. Vibration of being.
vibrations of being and historic challenges.
Okay.
Okay. We will all agree that we are living in a time of historic challenge. Major, major historic challenge, even trans-historic challenge or meta-historic challenge, because it goes beyond the current history. History is defined from a time period of 5,000 years ago till now, written history. Whatever the establishment says is the past that we can know and validate. Everything else is myth, legend, hearsay, new age, hoo-ha, who knows what. And it may as well be, because there's so much disinformation, that the only thing we know is that we really don't know. We don't know much. And everything we do know is questioned constantly. What we do know, however, for sure, is us. I know me. I know my existence. I know that I do exist. I know that I exist in an environment that I consider real, because I interact with that environment, and so my being responds. So I may not know if the environment is real per se, but I know that my response is real. So I start from there. That's what I'm saying. If you want to make changes, just backtrack to where you know something is real. Absolutely. And then start from there. Ignore all the other stuff. It's like being in a relationship. If you want the relationship, in my opinion, to work, then get rid of everything else. Get rid of everything else for now and say, okay, it can be just us, two people intimate with each other in a very simple environment, few possessions or whatever, you know. Well, I want my friends and I want my family and I want my this and I want my that, you know. Well, just minimize it to see what it's like naked. So that's the same. And then it doesn't mean you have to stay there, but make sure you're building your life together on your relationship and not on your addictions or desires for other things. And there's no need to use other things as supports, because if your relationship is that flimsy, you either need to build it up or else leave. So that's what Eastern religions mean. Not the religions, the spiritualities. That's what they mean by letting go of attachments. It doesn't mean living in a hole with nothing, naked all the time. It means prioritizing what is real and then building upon that. So you can have anything you want, really. But the only way you're going to get anything you want is through the vibrational frequencies of your being. These are not frequencies of some device. If you want to start, you need to transcend technology. And you need, in my honest opinion, to transcend technological thinking and move to what I would call organic thinking. So if you want, and so Ron brought up something about, well, consciousness should be able to dissolve matter, it should be able to melt weapons, it should be able to allow us to bilocate. Well, why doesn't it? Now, first of all, consciousness is all one. So if we can't do it, then it can't be done from elsewhere, unless elsewhere dictates it. That's what technology does. Because why? Let's put it this way. Why? Well, normally, yes. I mean, if we say I want this done, then it should be done. But if you're separate from the weapon, let's say you want to melt, how are you going to connect your consciousness to it and convince the matter to change its phase? Are you going to force the weapon to melt by force? I mean, matter has consciousness, right? On its own level. Atoms, I mean, when you're talking about manipulating matter with consciousness, what you're talking about is your consciousness, your being, resonating with the being of that material thing on whatever level it needs to resonate, and then becoming one. So it's as simple as moving your own limb. The same thing. If you want to convince somebody of something, you can either dictate to them and force them, or you can become one with them, relate to them, empathize, resonate, and thus you understand how they feel, and you will feel it, And you will understand to say, okay, this solution would make me feel better. And now that I'm resonating with them, they will be able to understand that they can feel better or be better in accordance to this. If I'm giving you health advice and I don't resonate with you, I don't care how much that advice works for me, it may not work for you. If I do resonate with you, I will understand your body perfectly. I will feel as if I am your body, and then I will be able to discern from your point of view. I'm still me, but I will be able to at least have an understanding, and then you'll be able to pick up on it because you need to be able to connect with me for the thing to be equal. Is that happening? Can you do this with a weapon? So the weapon spirit, or whatever you want to call it, the essence of the atoms that somehow have been forced together to create this thing of destruction, even though atoms are really loving beings from a mystical standpoint. They're loving essences. Matter, the mother, the goddess, all of these things are part of the goddess. So how is the goddess used in this way? She is dictated. She is manipulated because of the separation that is needed to create manifestation. The goddess was left alone. Let's put it that way. And so something else, a schizophrenic part of God that was completely twisted, because God is all possibility. But there's going to be crazy stuff in there. There's going to be evil. God is good in essence, but there's also going to be the reverse of it, because all God is also all possibility. And this is all mythological, metaphorical. I'm trying to convey the essence of something. The same thing with bilocation. Bilocation is an alteration, a shape shifting of space, a space-time alteration. Let's put it that way. And this requires space-time itself, which is the goddess medium, to be able to move with certain degrees of freedom. Now, if she is dictated and traumatized and there is a shadow in presence, then those degrees of freedom do not exist. And consciousness can only perceive lesser degrees of freedom. Consciousness can only experience lesser degrees of freedom. And so here we come with this idea that we can make a technology that dictates to the goddess what she's going to do, or that we can actually dictate through our conscious will. I want to bilocate, so I'm going to bilocate. Yeah, but what if space-time, which is alive, is so wounded that it's almost like raping? So you try to move through space-time and bilocate, you would be raping space-time. This is what the so-called establishment wants to do with their high-level experiments. They want to rape the universe. This is what these so-called ETs want to do. ETs with technology, if it's not based on love, and usually it isn't, because it wouldn't have to be there as technology. They'd be angels. They wouldn't be ETs. They wouldn't need technology at that level. But let's say they do need a surrogate. If they did have such technology, it would be based on love. It would deal with resonance. The ETs would have to face the shadow if they tried to use it on Earth, and they'd be in the same boat as we are. That ain't happening. They're scared shitless. If there are ETs, they're scared shitless because they can't deal what we're dealing with. We seem powerless because we're here under such a great challenge that even divinities would seem powerless. This is the level of the challenge, the level of the shadow, that nothing else. And so any ETs that say, well, we're all powerful, but for some reason we have a prime directive or this or that. No, they're scared shitless. And if they're afraid to admit it, then they're in the same boat as we are and in denial. So that's why I don't consider ETs as a viable solution. If they were a viable solution, they would be the ones on their Earth facing the challenge that we faced, having overcome it and sharing the solution. Just like one cell develops antibodies for cancer or whatever, a disease, then all the cells get them. Why haven't we gotten the antibodies for the shit that we have to deal with if it's been dealt with elsewhere? That's a simple thing. It hasn't been dealt with elsewhere. We are the ones dealing with it. We are the ancestors of all extraterrestrials. Notice extraterrestrials look like humans. They all somehow are anthropomorphic. Even the Greys look like humans, you know. So they sell us, we engineered you. I don't believe so. I think that's a con job. What I believe is that they are the future probabilities, if you extend the transhumanist agenda into ultimate mutations, space exploration, millions of years down the line, you're going to have a whole bunch of ET civilizations in this galaxy. And we don't even know where they're coming from. We don't even know how far the galaxy extends, what galaxies are, what's going on in other galaxies, other universes, these dimensions. We only know what we are told. I mean, people are so confused about this as they realize it, that there are sites that are claiming the Earth is flat, the sun isn't real, we just live in the petri dish. And I can't say, you know, I can't argue with them. Really, I can't say, well, it's definitely not true. All I can say is that is not the model of the paradigm that I want to believe in, because it's completely disempowering. It's middle-aged thinking, Middle Ages, medieval thinking. And besides, I feel the sun and I feel the moon. Not always, you know, there's something that seems to block it, some kind of radiation. But I'm trying to say that perhaps we're addicted to reality stability. I mean, you know, the establishment is really big on making certain chemicals, certain substances, certain drugs illegal. And these drugs are really harmless to the body. What they do is they remove preconceptions. You know, shamans use them to expand their doors of perception. Why are these illegal? Why are cigarettes and alcohol legal and psychopharmaceuticals that cause all kinds of suicidal behavior? And why are these other things illegal? You know, what's the real reason? Because this is what these things do, and this is how shamans use them. They let you enter a frame of being where everything is fluid, where your perception depends on what's going on inside you. So then you can actually get a handle of what's going on inside you, because you have a one-to-one feedback with what you're seeing. If you're living in fear, you're going to have a bad trip. Let's put it that way. If you're truly euphoric and in nature and happy, you're going to have a paradise experience. So this usually happens in our dreams. And if it doesn't happen, we go insane. If we don't dream, we go insane and die. So if we don't engage with reality from this fluid mode, if we're stuck in a box, in a matrix, it will kill us. We have to, even these so-called other forces know that, well, these guys have to at least get knocked out and engage in fluid consciousness in their dreams, in their sleep cycle, and that's what lets the body heal. So what a shaman could do was learn to temporarily use these substances and not take them for forever. It's a temporary period of training to use these substances to be able to be comfortable with fluid reality. That's what non-attachment means. Can you grasp water? You're swimming. Can you actually reach your hand out and grasp it? No. You have to grasp something solid. But what if reality was fluid? However, you can swim in water, you can float in water. Look at all the fish. Look at the dolphins, everything. You know, this is the sea of being. The ocean of being is the same substance as the ocean of our own being. The individuality ocean, the inner ocean that's infinite on the inside. So what I'm saying here is that vibrations of being may be, it's not such a mystical or crazy or whatever thought to consider that if you want to affect historic process, because before you melt the weapons, before you bilocate, you see, you need to heal the shadow to the point that the goddess comes alive and poof, we're all in a perpetual mystical experience. This cannot be given to us. We have to heal the shadow for that to happen, because the shadow is preventing reality from moving flexibly. It's frozen in place. That's why we don't have psychic abilities. And when we have the means, the shamanic means, the planet gives us all these plants to say, hey, take this plant, work with it, and eventually your DNA can activate that way. That's how it was in the old days. But, of course, the establishment says this is bad and has all kinds of conditioned people taking these plants and jumping off of buildings for other reasons or doing bad things. And then they promote it in the media, and then everybody says this is bad. And so everybody supports the suppression of consciousness in that way. Now, again, even I can't go around saying, oh, I advocate taking drugs, because at this point we're so fucked up that I really don't trust that way of doing things unless you're an exception to the proverbial rule. I don't trust it because we've been so fucked up we can't even go that route naturally anymore. So we need to reverse it in ourselves. Now, my observations are that whenever I see eclipses, new moons, full moons, I test the ethers, I kind of sense things, and I notice that the establishment outputs more terror, more fear, more chemtrails, more this, more resistances. Probably, the moods are lower, and they try to blame it on the eclipses. They try to blame it on the solar flares. I think something is happening during these key periods. And what did the ancients say? The ancients said that these key periods are ideal for reality shifts. Except our history tells us that everybody was freaked out because rulers were threatened by eclipses and comets and this and that and the other. And you say, yeah, comets can hit the earth or whatever. But I'm saying that Friday the 13th is not a bad day. Friday the 13th was the day that the Knights Templar, who became Freemasons, which entered the whole establishment, got burned at the stake. So it's a bad day for them. Why is it a bad day for us? I'm saying that the eclipses and all of these signs and portents are bad for the establishment because they help us tune into reality at a level of cosmic interface so we can make it more flexible, so we can flow with it, so we can alter the pathways. We don't have to melt the weapons. We don't have to stop the bullets. We can alter the probabilities, what they call timelines. And they're not timelines. Time is not a line. There's no line path to time. Time is a volume of one event resonating with another event, and consciousness forming a link between all of these. That's the line. It's what happens after the fact when you look at it once it forms. But time is a ever-present modulation of fluid probabilities. Probabilities get sucked in like atmospheric, like gravity sucks in things on a planet, and then these probabilities enter the matrix or the substance of the temporal field of the present moment, and they move matter to conform to their patterns. They're like blueprints that and then matter and energy conform to create an event. Time is the nature of events. It's the experience of events. It's not an entity per se. It's a confusing way to view it. So again, what are vibrational frequencies of being? They are moods, they're your state of awareness, your level of discernment, your integrity, your level of integrity, how true you are to yourself. All of these things we've been discussing. It's very difficult to pinpoint it, not just because it's complicated, but because the establishment, the matrix, whatever you want to call it, has gone out of its way to cut this off. It doesn't cut off our DNA directly. It forces behavior that makes us cut off our DNA epigenetically since we're born. That's how our DNA is compromised. If you can take a little baby and it can have an environment that it grows naturally, then it will awaken its DNA. However, that environment does not exist. Space-time itself is compromised. The collective of humanity is compromised. So before we bilocate, we still understand that we have the ability to alter events. Otherwise, there wouldn't be this. Look what I heard about this eclipse. Europe is going to go into blackout and every crime is going to start and people are going to go into chaos because of this eclipse. Because Europe is now full of photovoltaic cells, of solar panels. So the sun's going to be blocked and the solar panels will shut down and everybody's going to go into blackout and the cannibals are going to eat us, And it's like, well, what happens on cloudy days? Does it all go into blackout? The cannibals are going to eat us? I mean, an eclipse lasts for like an hour or two. What the hell is that? See, that's how stupid they think we are. And so somebody like the ambassador calls us stupid, because he sees what the media is saying, and some people respond accordingly because they're so used to it, they don't think, and so he gets frustrated. Of course, it doesn't help to call us stupid. What helps is to point out why one might be tempted to call us stupid, specifically. And I'm saying, look at stupid pieces of news like that. And if you can't really make the connections that cloudy days also shut off photovoltaics, nighttime shuts off photovoltaics. What the hell? So why? And then you say, well, this is a stupid reason. And these people are professionals. They're professional. They're scientists. They're economists. They're journalists. And they're putting out an article like this on some major Google site. Why? So you hit the next stage. First, you realize that they think you're stupid, and you go, yeah, good, think I'm stupid. That's going to let you underestimate me. I much prefer to be underestimated than overestimated. So call me stupid. Good. That means I can do things that you don't think are possible for me. So once you realize the con job, then you ask yourself why. Why is this? It doesn't make sense. Why should we be scared of an eclipse? And why were people scared in ancient times? Why did the kings want people scared of eclipses? They didn't want them scared. They were just scared. Oh, come on. The fucking light dims down a little bit. People weren't stupid. They knew about cycles. Shamans would tell people about cycles all the time. The moon, the sun. They knew these things. They knew eclipses. They built Stonehenge. Things like that. All these monuments back tens of thousands of years ago. So that argument, they were just primitive and they thought the sun was gone and the sky was going to fall. They thought, they're trying to convince us our ancestors were a bunch of idiots in the same way they're trying to convince us we're a bunch of idiots. And so we need to continue talking where the image froze. Oh,
yeah, the image froze.
Okay, this is the point where the image froze for a minute. Did you lose all that I was talking about?
No, it still says it's recording.
Okay, because I asked the question, why are we afraid of eclipses? And this establishment tries to convince us that it's our fault. It's us being afraid, when it's really them convincing us that we should be afraid of eclipses. We should be afraid of these particle accelerators. They're trying to convince us. They're sending out this information that I believe is sent out to convince certain people of alternative spirituality that this new physics stuff is actually going to rip space-time apart and all that crap. I mean, that kind of crap is going on in the cosmos all the time, and you don't have space-time ripped apart. Whether it goes on this planet or somewhere else, it's the same thing. So why aren't black holes created that bombard our planet and swallow up our galaxy? As Stephen Hawking, who's supposed to be this big-ass physicist, said, oh, sir, it might create a black hole that will suck the Earth in, like some movie. When black holes have never been truly seen or measured, they've been theorized, and certain effects have been said to be black holes, but nobody's proven it. So again, who are these scientists, these specialists, these so-called intellectuals, these scholars, these philosophers, these professionals, these authorities? Who are they? They certainly are not what they say they are. They follow a script, and we see that over and over again. These lawyers, these actors, these politicians, they follow a script. Why are they following this kind of script? It doesn't make sense. And then we try to fill in the gaps with a matrix paradigm. And even New Age paradigms are matrix paradigms to a great extent. They may have started a certain way, like religions. Religions have all kind of great stuff. But then something comes in and turns it into a matrix paradigm. It's everywhere. We need to learn to filter out the matrix from the natural, in our perception. So just look at this example of the eclipse now. It's the first day of spring. It's the new moon. There's an eclipse. It's falling on the Arctic Circle where the magnetic field in the northern hemisphere is of highest concentration. I saw this on the map. There was a solar flare on the 17th when there was a massive astrological angle that was the 7th, magic number 7, in a whole line of these kinds of angles. So the 17th, a massive solar flare hit when a massive hit. All these are coincidences? No. If you want to talk about ETs, that's where your ETs are. If you want to talk about intervention, that's the intervention. There are cosmic events going on all the time. All the time. And these are all interventions, and we're meant to perceive them, to feel them, and to find them as opportunities where we can, through our vibrational state of being, address the status quo and move it into greater fluidity. That's what they don't want. But when you're afraid, you freeze, and you freeze right along with the Matrix, and they're the ones in their castles sacrificing children on all of these days. Why do they do that? Why do they have all these crazy occult rituals? Why do they fucking say a war is going to break out on a certain day of the new moon or the full moon or something like that? Why do they freak us out with the blood moon being on the day of the Jewish Passover? You know, why are they using biblical prophecy in such a way to scare us literally to death? And then so we can turn into the most rational and safest explanation that they have provided for us conveniently, because they are dealing with a threat. They are preempting a threat. The threat is our vibrational state of being. And this is something that I cannot just say, please look at your vibrational state of being, and you do so. You know, this is something that you need to address 24/7, in my opinion. At least some of you who feel inwardly inclined, because it's not just inward. You need to engage with the world to do it. And this will allow you to look beyond the matrix, everything. It will allow you to discern better, because that's what awakens DNA. There was a massive solar flare. It hit the Atlantic Ocean and spread eastwardly. And now there's a first day of spring when the Earth is balanced, eclipse that blocks out the center of the sun. So the solar corona, which has special properties, can purely affect the planet, unfiltered. And so they're telling us not to look at the sun. You know, I've been looking at the sun all my life, people. I've never gotten blind. I've been staring at the sun for hours on end, and it wasn't, you know, and I've never gotten blind. I would squint. Okay, I wouldn't just pry my eyes open with toothpicks. And I find it very healing. But I'm not going to advise you to do that, because if you believe you're going to be blind, you might cause blindness to yourself. So, you know, again, that's why I wouldn't, even if I drank some distilled water and it helped me, I wouldn't advise people to make it a lifetime habit. I would use common sense, my discernment, listening to my body. So if my body tells me that, hey, man, this is going to make me blind, I would stop. But it's not a fixed rule, because they're telling you that the sun or health or whatever, there are fixed rules, laws. Again, we go down to cosmic legality. You know, fuck cosmic legality. God is not a lawmaker. This is nature. Why do we call them laws? They're nature. This is our nature, my nature, your nature. So again, the eclipse, the new moon, all of these things, when they come together, they are special times where reality jiggles a little easier than it used to jiggle. And these psychopaths who do not have any power are going to cause suffering, kill children, rape children, cut them apart, eat them right on these special days in order to make terror real, in order to make the shadow more manifest. And what do? They discourage us very strongly from doing our thing. And it's not about meditating for a better world. It's about doing that, but dealing with the shadow as well. Being positive in terms of outcomes, but not negating the current reality. You cannot force reality to change. You cannot be given a mandate. A mandate, nobody can give you a mandate. If heaven could give humanity a mandate, God would have corrected everything. God would have come and healed his mate, the goddess, directly. There is no mandate. Our DNA is the mandate of heaven. That is the mandate. Our evolutionary potential is the mandate of heaven. We are here on this planet. That is the mandate of heaven. Okay? It isn't that a specific person has God. I mean, come on. Westerners are really suspicious of this for good reason, because the Pope says the same thing, doesn't he? He's got a mandate of heaven. You know, all the kings said the same thing, and they used to fight themselves. Which heaven was the right one? If two kings are having a war, which heaven? Well, one of the kings is lying. You know, they say. Well, then he wins, and then his predecessor is somebody who succeeds him. It's confusing because they're all of the same family. Come on. I mean, yeah, you can argue anything to death. So again, this is a very vague, not a vague one, but I'm speaking in generalities because I do not want to dictate. This isn't a lesson. You know, this isn't a school in that sense. This is food for thought. I want to nourish thinking because people already know these things. This audience. And that's another thing. We need to know that this audience is a small one. At most 1,000 people, 1,200, I don't know, you know. So I'm speaking to a specific audience, not to the people, you know. I'm not an advocate of the people. I'm an advocate of whoever will listen at this point, to think on themselves, to take in all of this, not because to feel better, to be uplifted, to just sigh and look at the sun and the sky and say, what a wonderful life, you know. I want to be able to inspire, but not as an inspirational person, as a regular person who speaks on a certain level to just help shift awareness to another way of thinking, which is not too far away from how this audience thinks anyways. It isn't that far away. So look at the times and the signs and all of this. Don't worry about big ass dramatic miracles. Just altering probabilities, because if these people have so many complicated plans, if one thing goes wrong, it all falls apart. That's why they want us to be submitted. They don't want us to de-manifest their reality frame. They're telling us, I've been saying this in all these videos on and off in many ways, that their reality frame is weak. It's weak. It doesn't hold together unless we're all dead. That's why they want to kill us. Unless they wipe our DNA, they wipe our minds, they mutate us, because the human spirit is the mandate of heaven. You know, so there's another title. I don't know. There's lots of titles you could put to this. It kind of sums up so many things. So please listen from start to finish and think about it. You know, this is an unrehearsed and passionate presentation. That's why I move a lot. That's why my eyes blink a lot. You know, it's difficult because there's many counter energies, counter vibrations, because when you want to manifest reality, the people who are positive oriented, what happens if everybody else wants the opposite? Are you going to go into your dimension and they're going to go into theirs? We're on the same planet here.
I don't believe it.
No, it's a competition. That's what happens. They're competing with us. The establishment wants to manifest hell, and we want to manifest our own well-being. We say we want to manifest paradise, but really everybody, most people, want to manifest their own sense of well-being. They just need to realize that it's not so much a matter of ethics, it's a matter of nature, that we are interconnected. I cannot have well-being without being in an environment of well-being where others are in well-being. That's just a fact of nature. It's not even a law or a rule or anything. So let's consider the fact that even through common sense, you can see that they're trying to scare us for no apparent reason, because we're already scared to death. I mean, really, logically, if you think that you know, you're not powerful, then wonder why aren't they implementing all of these things? The people are not going to revolt. There's no logical reason. The people are not going to revolt. I mean, even if they do revolt, they'll kill us. We've been saying this. We're all hopeless for no reason, because everything we're afraid of does not happen. It doesn't happen. All they're trying to do is make us so afraid that we bow down. That's what's going on. Because they're supposed to be all powerful. So what's going on? So yeah, they have weapons. Yeah, they have power. Yeah, secular power. Yeah, they have police. Yeah, they have toxins. But why aren't they doing it if they can? Why don't they go to their bunkers and just kill us? There's something that is not being told to us. And that is that if even one person sits on this planet and resonates a different state of being, even among them, that's why they control themselves, then it all falls apart. Because one little thing goes wrong, bad luck. Call it bad luck. You know, everything falls apart. That is what I'm trying to say. That is the power of manifestation. It's not to alter the shape of things. It's to alter the shape of events by altering probabilities, by changing luck, by changing fortune. And this is done in a grounded manner, in a healthy manner, with common sense, which is the sense we share. It's not the common sense of some common thing. It is the sense we share. It is our interconnected sense. With that, so please, there is no piece of advice that I can give anybody that will just sum up everything. Please do this. But the vibrational state of being is important. Just don't reject it completely, and don't fall for explanations that are contrived and simplistic just because they're easier or extreme. Just like Ron told me, you know, he came to the conclusion that your health, any kind of diet you follow or health style, it can't be a single thing. You need to be able to modify. You need to be flexible. The same thing with all of these things. You need to be flexible. I'm sorry, but you cannot be absolved of your responsibility. It's all based on your ability to respond naturally. You can't avoid it. So at least focus on that and focus on your own being, knowing that you're not neglecting the world in doing so. You're actually connecting with it in a real, real way. Thank you for your patience in this longer than usual video. I hope it helps on this first day of spring and thereafter.
Thank you, Aristo. Have a beautiful day.
You too, Rod.